If you have been following my videos in 2022 and even beyond that, you would know that I have been on a weight loss journey and I recently hit a massive weight plateau. I was not seeing my weight shift on the scale and it was making me feel some type of way. And so I did a video talking about how I was gonna go on a mini reverse diet. And that meant that I was gonna stop eating at a caloric deficit for about 12 weeks and see how that affected my metabolism and inevitably my ability to lose weight and start seeing the number on the scale go down again. I wanted to give you an update on how that little experiment turned out, as well as what it has taught me about my feelings towards diet culture. Now hear me when I say this, I'm not talking about my feelings towards health. I don't hate health. I don't hate every aspect of the health industry. I really just think that diet culture is less helpful than it is helpful in most cases. Oftentimes it has us focusing so much on one metric of health, getting so obsessed with our clothes size, the way we look, and whether we think our body and the image that it conveys actually fits into what society is willing to accept, rather than really considering how we feel and how we're going about achieving health. And so before anybody comes for me, no, I am not talking about the fact that I hate how people have convinced us that being a certain way and above a certain way is unhealthy for you, and oh my gosh, the fact that you could die is such a lie. I am very, very aware as an overweight person, and I'm sure other overweight people are very, very aware of the dangers of being a certain weight and above. However, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that to be healthy is a lie and this construction which we all need to fight. What I am saying though is there are some lies that have found its way into masking the truth. And for me, that's what I call diet culture. It's the fads, it's the trends, it's the lose weight quick schemes, if you will. And I want to talk from the perspective of someone who has lost some weight, is in the process of losing weight, and has had a lot of complicated feelings with my body as well as with food. So let's talk about it. Before we get into today's conversation, I want to say a massive thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring another video. Love to see it. So if you haven't already heard about HelloFresh, then I don't know, you must have been living under a rock. I've used their meal kits quite a few times now, and they have helped me so much to add variety to my weeks. To be very honest, sometimes I get really bored of meal prep. So this is a great way I get to try new flavors while still tracking macros. They even have a calorie smart range where all of the recipes are under 650 calories. The fresh and seasonal ingredients you receive are all pre-measured, and you get step-by-step instructions on how to prepare each and every meal. So it's really easy to follow, and all of this is delivered right to your door. Today for lunch, I'm having the chicken and pepper fajita bowl with coriander rice, tomato salsa, and sour cream. And let me tell you something, it looked, tasted, and smelt delicious. When it comes to meal kit deliveries, people actually wonder if they'll taste good, and honestly, I can say that every meal I've had from HelloFresh has been really good, including this one. So if you would like to try it, HelloFresh has an exciting new unlimited offer for September only to help you through the back to school rush, whether you're a parent or a student. So go and get 60% off your first box and 25% off for 2 months. This is a limited offer ending by the end of September. So be sure to click the link in my description and use my code Daniella60.
It's good though.
Yeah, it's actually good. I think the first thing that bothers me most about diet culture is it causes you to obsess about food in just a different way to probably how you were obsessing about food before. Now, I'll talk from my personal experiences, and I've talked about how I became fat. I've done a video on it. And one thing I will say is that I used to love and be obsessed with and in love with and almost addicted to food. I would definitely say I used to love eating and I was addicted to eating. However, I feel like diet culture and how insidious it can sometimes be makes you obsess over food just in a different way. Before, you might have been binging and your obsession may have been around how much food you could eat in order to feel satisfied or numb pain or to just eat and feel satiated, right? However, now the obsession is how little can you eat? How low can you really go? And I hated the fact that diet culture and the thoughts that I had internalized had started to make me think that I couldn't actually eat foods that I enjoyed, and that anytime I was hungry, I should punish myself with starvation, or that anytime I was hungry, it was this kind of fat gremlin trying to jump on my back. But really and truly, I was hungry, and my body's cues, as much as I may have had an interesting relationship with food in the past, my body's cues to tell me how to survive are still very much true. And I hate the fact that as people who are on weight journeys, we are taught to almost distrust our bodies. So on the 12 weeks that I was doing my mini reverse diet, if you will, or just simply eating at maintenance, I started to pay more attention to my actual hunger cues and also to my cravings. Now, don't get me wrong, I have been on a weight loss journey for over 1 year now. My cravings for sugary, high processed foods have kind of diminished a little bit. Don't get me wrong, those foods still taste good to me. I love me a cheeky McDonald's, baby. However, I started to realize that I didn't crave those foods as much. However, your girl still loves food with flavor. I love to feel like I am satisfied after I've eaten, and that I've been able to eat, to a degree, what I want. Another reason why I feel like diet culture also makes you obsess over food is it makes it hard to think that you would be able to lose weight if you deviated from a specific meal plan or a specific structure of eating. And whilst routine is actually quite good for the body, I do think it's worth noting that food, as much as it is fuel for the body and nutrients, it is also to a degree for enjoyment, for bonding, a cultural experience. And I have been traveling a lot on this gap year. I was so nervous about the results that eating food whilst I was traveling would have on my body. It felt as though every time I traveled, it had to be a cheat week because all these foods were bad and they were outside of my diet. And so when I returned back home, I would have to get back to eating super clean to make up for all the guilt that I had about eating so much or different types of food whilst I was abroad. But honestly and truly, yes, calories in, calories out, but you can actually have fun with your food, and as long as you also increase your activity whilst you're away, which often we actually do, you can actually afford to have that extra bit here and there. And honestly, I love watching like creators like Will Tennyson, for example, who just break down the fact that simple substitutions here and there can still help you stay on track of your goals. You don't have to feel super guilty for eating that donut in his case, or for eating, you know, those churros in Spain, Courtney, or eating that Popeye chicken sandwich in New York. You don't have to feel guilty. You loved it. That's what you were there for, right? You wanted to enjoy yourself. Just make some smarter, wiser choices, but you don't have to have these complicated feelings around food. Diet culture still complicates our emotions towards foods, when really we shouldn't have that much of an emotional relationship about food anyway, whether the emotion be obsession or an emotional love connection, or feelings of guilt and depression and shame around food either. Food shouldn't be emotional. It should just be food. Now, I understand when it comes to losing weight and weight loss, a lot of it is about discipline, and it is about, you know, turning away from the things which may take you away from your goals in the long term. But really and truly, when it comes to weight loss, there are so many factors involved in not just the number you see on the scale, but your body's ability to actually lose fat, that having that chocolate bar that you've been craving having might not do you as much bad if you simply maybe go on a walk or just eat a bit less tomorrow. Or even if you don't balance out the scales, not losing that extra 0.01 pounds this week is not going to kill you. And I hate the fact that diet culture kind of makes you so obsessed with whether you have succeeded or failed in your goals, when really failure this week by missing your weight loss goal isn't really failure if next week you can make it up or you actually feel satisfied in other ways. And that brings me to another issue, which is, as well as being obsessed with food, you have to be obsessed with one metric. That is the number you see on the scale. So let's talk about my reverse diet results. So throughout the 12 weeks of eating at maintenance, I did not weigh myself just because of how fearful I was of what I was going to see on the scale. I thought that if I took myself out of the extreme deficit that I was in a deficit of about 1,000 1,000 calories plus, and I still wasn't losing weight. And I thought if I start eating at maintenance, and I did my maintenance calculation, that I would start putting on pounds rapidly. And so every time I would look in the mirror, I was trying to gauge, am I getting bigger? Do I look bloated? Do I look a bit puffy? I'm gaining weight. I started to think that my clothes weren't fitting right, even though they actually were. And I just started to feel a lot more insecure, alongside also feeling really conscious about the food that I was eating. And one thing I've realized is when it comes to weight loss, you can become so obsessive about your body and so obsessed about how much you weigh and how you look that you start to develop a little sense of body dysmorphia. At least I would say for most people, you start to find it really difficult to actually know what you look like. If somebody asked me what I look like, I wouldn't have been able to really say. Sometimes I thought I looked amazing. In the mirror, I looked great. In pictures, I felt like I didn't look good. Or in pictures, I was surprised that that was like even me. But in the mirror, I felt horrible. I felt a different type of way about my body when I saw myself naked versus when I saw myself clothed. It was a lot of confusion. And whilst I don't want to self-diagnose or even diagnose anyone with a mental health disorder like body dysmorphia, I do think it's worth talking about our body image and our self-perception when it comes down to the way we see our bodies as they change. And one thing that I noticed about myself was I was really fearful about weighing myself on the scale. And as soon as the 12 weeks came to an end, I still didn't want to weigh myself on the scale. Even though I was eating whole foods pretty much, I wasn't eating anything too overprocessed. Apart from when I went to the US, I won't lie. However, I was trying my best, or even subconsciously, just eating foods which I felt would be more filling, which were a bit higher in protein, because that had been my routine for the last 1 year. My mindset towards food had started to change, and I needed to trust that. But I didn't trust that the weight on the scale would know that. And so after about 14 weeks after I started that mini reverse diet was when I actually weighed myself, and to my absolute shock angle, having eaten at maintenance, I had maintained my weight. I was pretty much about 0.4 pounds higher than I had been when I started this journey. And that was really confusing to me. And I didn't know why I was feeling so much guilt and why I wasn't trusting that the math would add up. Well, I understand why I didn't think the math would add up, because I was in such a high deficit before and I wasn't losing weight. So I was scared that if I was eating at maintenance, it would actually be a surplus and I would gain. But to my shock, I had actually maintained. And that's when I started to question this whole diet culture thing. Well, I've been questioning it for a long time, but I started to have more questions, which was, maybe the science is actually right. And diet culture is full of a lot of just hopes and wishes and fads, which make us doubt the science and start to trust in other people's personal experiences, which are totally valid, but they don't apply to the masses. And one thing that I appreciate about a lot of the fitness influencers who I actually watch here on YouTube, like Natasha Ocean or Jeff Nippard, is whilst they do appreciate the nuances of weight loss and body composition, they also explain, digest, and appreciate the science behind it all. And I think it's worth demystifying a lot of what's in the weight loss culture or the weight loss literature or videos that are out there, and also what we believe diet culture to mean and how true we consider a lot of the things we read or watch to actually be. Because I should have been able to trust that eating at maintenance means that I would have maintained my weight, but I didn't. So how did I actually break through my plateau? Well, after the 14 weeks that I was eating outside of maintenance, because I did splurge a little bit, okay, I did actually start a new accountability challenge with one of my closest friends, Jade. And we were doing this challenge where we had to basically work out 4 times a week. We ramped up our steps each and every week, and we held each other accountable in terms of the food that we ate by following each other on MyFitnessPal and just keeping track of each other. And we would have weekly check-ins about how we felt, how our bodies were feeling, as well as how much weight we had lost. And there were actual penalties involved. Money penalties, financial penalties, mullah, dosh, quids on the line. when it came down to whether you ticked off all of your physical and nutritional goals for that week. And it was bloody tough. I mean, I was marching up and down my living room at all hours of the day trying to get those steps in, or making sure that I was at the gym, even if it meant going after, you know, an evening out and being at the gym at like 11 at night. I almost became a little bit obsessed, but I actually loved the fact that it was helping me get more into routine, and I was doing it with somebody else's support, and we weren't doing anything drastic or anything crazy. We were actually trying to keep each other away from that. We would have conversations about how we were obsessing over the number on the scale and how seeing our numbers not go down or go down too much or go up even made us feel, and we were able to talk to each other and encourage each other, as well as empower each other and make each other feel confident about the fact that this was a journey. It wasn't going to happen overnight. And all of those words of wisdom from her and all the things that I was learning along the way was really helping me. And I noticed that after the first week of doing it, my weight didn't shift at all. And it really made me nervous that this plateau was something that was going to follow me around for the next part of the year. And then the next week came and I weighed myself at the gym instead of in my bathroom scale. And the difference was insane. I realized that my bathroom, and even according to my apartment, our floors in our apartment are not even. And so it means that if I weigh myself even in different points of my apartment, the weighing scale was actually going to say something different. And then I went to the gym and I decided, okay, I'll weigh myself at the gym because it can be my objective scale. Got on the scale and I was actually 2 kilograms lighter than I was the week before. And I am so sure that that wasn't just down to physical activity, but that was my weight. And so I had been so obsessed with this number, and yet there were so many factors affecting this number. And that doesn't even talk about the fact that I'm a woman, right? I have a reproductive system, and that and hormones and emotions and all of it really do affect my weight. The quality of sleep you have, we've discussed this a lot on my channel, affects your weight as well. And so as much as we can obsess over one metric as a marker for how successful our weight loss journeys are, it's not really that helpful. Yes, getting to a particular goal weight is actually a great motivator, and it's a great way to measure your health. However, that's not the full story. It's a part of a picture, but it's not the full picture. I'm so thankful that over those 14 weeks, I was able to not view food as my enemy. I was able to fall in love with exercising again and became excited to exercise. And I wasn't punishing myself. I wasn't eating below what I should have been. I was just following a plan that was made surrounding the basics: a slight caloric deficit, increased activity, a good sleep pattern, and just not stressing. And I started to shed some pounds. So your girl is 6 pounds lighter, and it feels crazy because I was at a plateau for so long, but your girl is 6 pounds lighter. And I think it even encouraged me to be so proud of myself that I've been able to maintain my weight loss from last year. If you don't know, I lost 25 pounds last year, and I was able to actually keep it off throughout this whole year, and now I've lost an additional 6 pounds. I'm so proud of myself for not giving up and not letting the plateau discourage me. But I wanted to come and have that conversation about toxic diet culture. I hope it was helpful, and I hope that you actually have some thoughts, which you may want to share with me down in the comments. So let's chat down there, and as always, keep it respectful and keep it helpful. Thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video and for allowing me to experience a wide range of flavors and cuisines, because now I'm not afraid of food. So I'll talk to you guys in my next video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a video from me. And I'll talk to you very soon. As always, stay beautiful and stay blessed. Mwah.